The security guard's hands froze mid-search when he saw the badge. 16-year-old Zara Thompson had been subjected to an aggressive pat-down for 12 minutes while her mother watched from the Federal Security Office monitor 3 floors above. What happened next didn't just change airport security. It changed federal policy forever. The stories we tell ourselves about young black women, the assumptions that shatter careers in an instant. Have you ever witnessed discrimination so blatant that it made national headlines? This is that story. Location: Rosewood International Airport Security Checkpoint, Terminal C. Time 2:23 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon. Date: March 15, 2024. Zara Thompson, 16 years old, approached the TSA security checkpoint at Rosewood International with the confidence of someone who had never been given a reason to fear authority. Valedictorian of her junior class at Pinecrest Academy, captain of the debate team, early admission to Columbia University. Her designer backpack contained acceptance letters from 7 Ivy League schools and a laptop filled with scholarship applications. She wore a simple black hoodie with Columbia University emblazoned across the chest, dark jeans and pristine white sneakers. Her natural hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she carried herself with the poise her mother had instilled in her since childhood. The metal detector stood before her like a routine gateway. Zara had flown dozens of times, Washington, D.C., to visit universities, Chicago for debate tournaments, Los Angeles for academic conferences. She placed her laptop and shoes in the gray plastic bins, walked through the detector, and waited for the familiar green light. The detector remained silent. "Miss, step over here, please." TSA officer Marcus Brennan, a 15-year veteran with graying temples and suspicious eyes, pointed toward a secondary screening area cordoned off by retractable barriers. His name tag read Senior Officer beneath his photo. Zara glanced around the bustling terminal. In the past 5 minutes, she'd watched at least 20 passengers pass through the same detector without incident. A businessman in an expensive suit, a college-aged white girl in revealing clothes, an elderly couple with multiple carry-on bags, a young white man wearing a hoodie identical to hers, even carrying a similar backpack. None of them had been selected for additional screening. "Is there a problem with the scanner?" Zara asked politely, her debate training making her voice clear and measured. "Random additional screening," Brennan replied curtly, not making eye contact. "Standard procedure." Behind the security checkpoint, passenger Melody Chen had been waiting for her connecting flight when the scene caught her attention. Something about the interaction felt wrong. As a civil rights attorney, she'd developed an instinct for spotting discrimination. She discreetly pulled out her iPhone and opened her TikTok app. "Going live because I think I'm witnessing something important at Rosewood Airport security," she whispered to her phone. Within seconds, viewers began joining her stream. "Please empty your backpack completely onto the table," Brennan commanded, his tone suggesting this was somehow Zara's fault. Zara complied methodically, laying out her belongings with the same precision she used in academic competitions. Columbia University acceptance letter, Harvard scholarship application, debate team trophy from nationals, MacBook Pro in a protective case, scientific calculator, organic chemistry textbook, French literature anthology, a thermos of green tea, phone charger, earbuds, lip balm. Brennan picked up the acceptance letter and frowned. "Columbia University." "Yes, sir. I'm visiting next week for Admitted Students Day." "Uh-huh." His tone dripped skepticism. "And you're how old?" 16. I graduated high school early. Brennan's partner, Officer Janet Rodriguez, approached the secondary screening area. Rodriguez had been with TSA for 8 years and prided herself on her ability to spot trouble. She surveyed Zara's belongings with unconcealed suspicion. "Problem here, Marcus?" Rodriguez asked, loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. "Teenage girl claims she's going to Colombia. Seems a bit unlikely." Rodriguez picked up the debate trophy, examining it as if it might contain explosives. "This is expensive. Where'd you get the money for something like this?" Zara's eyebrows rose slightly. The question was so absurd she almost laughed. "It's an academic achievement award from the National Speech and Debate Association. They give them to winners at tournaments." "You debate?" Rodriguez's tone suggested this was as believable as claiming to be an astronaut. "Yes, ma'am. I'm captain of my school's varsity team. We won state championships last year." Melody's live stream viewer count climbed to 1,200 as she provided quiet commentary. "Y'all are watching TSA officers question a black teenager about her academic achievements. They're acting like she stole her own trophy." The comments section exploded. "This is so messed up. She's literally showing them acceptance letters. Those officers need to be fired. Share this everywhere." "Miss, I need you to turn around and place your hands against the wall," Brennan said, snapping on blue latex gloves with unnecessary drama. "Sir, may I ask what specifically triggered this search?" The metal detector didn't beep, and I've been completely cooperative. Rodriguez stepped closer, her voice taking on a threatening edge. "Are you refusing to comply with federal security procedures?" "No, ma'am. I'm asking for clarification of my rights as a minor traveling alone. Don't I have the right to have a guardian present during an invasive search?" "You have the right to miss your flight," Brennan said coldly. "Turn around." "Now." Zara complied, placing her palms against the cold metal wall. The pat-down that followed was unnecessarily aggressive and invasive. Brennan's hands searched every seam of her clothing, every pocket, running along her waistband and down her legs with excessive force. "This is uncomfortable," Zara said quietly, fighting back tears of humiliation. "Is this really necessary?" "Depends on what you're hiding," Rodriguez replied. Passengers were openly staring now. An elderly white woman shook her head in disgust. A businessman paused his phone call to watch. A group of college students had their phones out, clearly recording. Melody's viewer count hit 3,500. Her followers were sharing the stream across platforms, adding hashtags like #discrimination and #justice for Zara. Supervisor Daniel Torres approached, drawn by the growing crowd and the obvious tension. Torres, a 20-year TSA veteran, had been promoted to supervisor specifically because of his ability to defuse difficult situations. "What's the situation here?" Torres asked, surveying the scene. "Suspicious minor," Rodriguez reported, her voice carrying the authority of someone who expected to be believed without question. "Evasive answers about expensive items in her possession. Claims to be attending Columbia University at age 16. Torres studied Zara, who had turned back around after the pat-down. She was clearly upset, but maintained her composure. Her belongings were spread across the table like evidence at a crime scene. "What makes her suspicious?" Torres asked. Brennan and Rodriguez exchanged glances. The pause stretched uncomfortably long. "Experience," Brennan said finally. "Girls her age dressed like that, they don't usually have Ivy League acceptance letters. Something doesn't add up." "Dressed like what?" Zara asked, her debate training keeping her voice steady despite her growing anger. "I'm wearing a university hoodie and jeans." "How exactly should someone dressed like me be expected to dress?" The implication hung in the air like toxic smoke. Torres felt his stomach tighten. He'd heard this kind of coded language before, and it never ended well. Melody's stream exploded with viewers, now over 5,000 people watching live. The comments were a blur of outrage. Did they just say what I think they said? This is straight up racism. Someone call the news. Get this girl's name and school so we can support her. This is why black kids are afraid to succeed. Look, Torres said, trying to inject reasonableness into the situation. Let's just verify her travel documents and let her go. The line is backing up. Indeed, a crowd of at least 50 passengers had formed behind the security checkpoint, many of them recording with their phones and muttering about the delay. We need to complete the full screening protocol, Rodriguez insisted. She could be carrying contraband. Kids her age, they're not usually traveling alone to expensive universities. Someone's probably putting her up to this. Zara's mouth fell open. Putting me up to what? Achieving academic excellence, ma'am. An older black gentleman called out from the line. I've been watching this whole thing and you're way out of line. That girl hasn't done anything wrong. Rodriguez spun around. Sir, please stay behind the line and mind your own business. This is everyone's business when you're violating that child's civil rights in public. The man replied. Other passengers murmured agreement. Torres pulled Rodriguez aside. Janet, maybe we should. No, she cut him off. I'm not backing down because some people are recording. That's exactly what's wrong with this job now. Everyone's got a camera. Everyone's a critic. But when something goes wrong, who gets blamed? We do. Brennan nodded emphatically. She's right, Dan. Better safe than sorry. Look at her stuff. Expensive electronics. Designer backpack. Claims she's some kind of genius. At 16, come on, I can verify everything, Zara said, her voice carrying a slight tremor now. Hours of humiliation were taking their toll. I can call my school. I can show you my student ID. I can call the universities. Anyone can fake documents, Rodriguez said dismissively. I've seen kids with fake IDs that would fool their own mothers. Melody's live stream had reached 8,000 viewers. Major Twitter accounts were beginning to retweet clips from her stream. Local news stations were sending her direct messages asking for contact information. The commotion had attracted the attention of airport police officer Karen Walsh, who approached with the swagger of someone accustomed to being the biggest authority figure in any room. TSA. What's the situation? Walsh asked, her hand resting casually on her service weapon. Suspicious minor with expensive items and inconsistent story, Rodriguez reported. Possible fraud or theft. She claims to be 16 and going to Columbia University. Walsh looked Zara up and down with undisguised skepticism. Columbia, at 16? What are you really up to, sweetie? The condescending sweetie made Zara's jaw clench. Officer, I'm Zara Thompson. I'm a junior at Pinecrest Academy in Washington, D.C. I graduated early and received early admission to several universities. Everything I've told these officers is completely true and easily verifiable. Pinecrest Academy, Walsh laughed. That's where senators' kids go. You're telling me you go to school with senators' children? Yes, but your mother is probably a housekeeper or something, right? And you're living some fantasy about being successful. Walsh's words cut like knives. The crowd gasped audibly. Melody's viewers exploded past 10,000, with comments flowing too fast to read. Oh no, she didn't. This cop just ended her career. Lawsuit incoming. Someone record this audio specifically. Zara's composure finally cracked.
Tears welled in her eyes, but her voice remained steady. "Officer Walsh, you have no idea what you just said or who you just said it to." Torres was sweating now. This situation was spiraling beyond his control, and he could feel the weight of hundreds of witnesses and thousands of online viewers watching every moment. "Look, maybe we should just," he began. "No," Walsh cut him off. "I want to know what's really going on here. Expensive electronics, designer clothes, fancy school claims. Something doesn't add up. Girls like her don't just magically get into Ivy League schools. Girls like me," Zara repeated quietly. Walsh realized she'd said too much but doubled down instead of backing off. "You know what I mean. Kids from certain backgrounds. There are usually other factors involved. Athletic scholarships, diversity programs, special consideration."
The implication was crystal clear. Zara hadn't earned her achievements on merit. "Officer Walsh," Zara said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper but somehow carrying absolute authority, "I need to make a phone call." "After we complete our investigation," Rodriguez interjected. "No," Zara said firmly. "I need to make a phone call to my mother, right now." "Your mother can't help you here," Walsh said dismissively. "This is a federal security matter." Zara reached slowly into her wallet, her hands shaking slightly from stress and anger. "My mother is Dr. Patricia Thompson. She's probably watching this happen right now." All four security officers paused. Something in Zara's tone had shifted completely. "Dr. Thompson?" Torres asked. "Should that name mean something to us?" Melody's stream viewer count hit 12,000. The hashtag #Zara Thompson was trending on Twitter. Local news vans were reportedly en route to the airport. Zara pulled out her wallet fully and extracted something that wasn't her driver's license or student ID. It was a small official-looking card with federal seals and signatures. "What is that?" Brennan demanded. Zara held up a United States Senate family identification card with her photo and her mother's information clearly visible. "Senator Patricia Thompson, Armed Services Committee, Homeland Security, and Governmental Affairs Committee." The color drained from Walsh's face. "Officer," Zara said, her voice now carrying the quiet authority she'd inherited from her mother. "I think you need to call your supervisor, your real supervisor, and you might want to start thinking about updating your resumes." Torres grabbed his radio with hands that shook like autumn leaves. "Control, this is Torres at Terminal C Security. I need Section Chief Martinez down here immediately. And get me a direct line to Federal Security Administration." "What's wrong, Torres?" The radio crackled. Torres stared at the Senate ID card in Zara's hand, his career flashing before his eyes. I think we just searched and humiliated a United States Senator's daughter on live television." The silence that followed was deafening. Walsh's hand fell away from her weapon as she stumbled backward. Rodriguez sat heavily in a nearby chair, her face gray. Brennan just stared at the ID card as if it might spontaneously combust. Melody's stream had reached 15,000 live viewers. The comments section was absolute chaos. "Senator's daughter. They are so fired. This is about to be on CNN. Best karma ever. I can't wait for part 2 inches." Zara carefully placed the ID card back in her wallet and looked directly at each officer in turn. When she spoke, her voice carried the quiet dignity of someone who had just proven every assumption about her wrong. "Officer Walsh, you asked about my background. My mother, Senator Patricia Thompson, sits on the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. That's the committee that oversees TSA operations and budgets. She's also on the Armed Services Committee, which means she works directly with airport security protocols for military and government personnel. Walsh's legs gave out, and she had to lean against a nearby post. Agent Rodriguez, you questioned whether I deserve my academic achievements. I have a 4.0 GPA, perfect SAT scores, and I've published research in the Journal of Applied Chemistry. I'm not just going to Columbia. I'm going there on a full academic scholarship that I earned through merit, not diversity programs or special consideration. Rodriguez covered her face with her hands. Agent Brennan, you suggested that someone like me doesn't belong in places like Columbia University. For your information, my mother graduated from Harvard Law School, where she was editor of the Law Review. My father is Dr. Michael Thompson, Chief of Pediatric Surgery at Georgetown University Hospital. I was literally raised in the world you assumed I couldn't possibly belong to. Brennan looked like he might be sick. Torres' radio crackled with incoming emergency communications. Torres, this is Chief Martinez. I'm en route to your location with federal oversight. Do not take any further action against the minor in question. Do you copy? Federal oversight is coming down here. Walsh whispered. Control is also patching me through to Senator Thompson's office, the radio continued. She's requesting immediate video conference with all involved personnel. Video conference with the sitting United States Senator about her daughter. Melody's live stream exploded past 18,000 viewers. News outlets were messaging her frantically for permission to use her footage. #TSA discrimination was trending nationally. Zara gathered her belongings methodically, placing each item back in her backpack with deliberate care. The acceptance letters, the debate trophy, the laptop, the academic achievements that had been questioned and dismissed. Officers, she said quietly, in about 2 minutes, you're going to receive a phone call that will change everything. My mother isn't just watching this from home. She's watching from her office in the Hart Senate building, where she's currently in a meeting with the Secretary of Homeland Security about airport security reform. Torres' radio erupted with static. All units, this is Executive Command. We have a code red federal incident at Terminal C security checkpoint. Senate oversight is monitoring live. Repeat, Senate oversight is monitoring live. Code red federal incident. That meant congressional investigation. Career-ending congressional investigation. The live stream that started with 1,200 viewers now has 20,000 people watching. Zara continued. It's been shared by 3 sitting congresswomen and the official ACLU Twitter account. CNN is requesting interviews. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division is reportedly opening a preliminary inquiry. She shouldered her backpack and looked directly into Melody's phone camera. My name is Zara Thompson. I'm 16 years old. I'm an honor student, a debate champion, and a future Columbia University student. For the past 30 minutes, I've been subjected to discriminatory treatment based solely on the color of my skin and assumptions about what someone like me is capable of achieving. The terminal had gone completely quiet. Hundreds of passengers were recording with their phones. The moment felt historic. Zara turned back to the 4 officers, who looked like they were attending their own funeral. In 30 seconds you're going to get a call from Senator Patricia Thompson. She's going to want to discuss how TSA agents treated her daughter on live television in front of 20,000 witnesses. Torres' phone began ringing. The caller ID showed U.S. Senator Armed Services. His hand trembled as he stared at the phone. Officers, Zara said softly, I suggest you answer that call, and I suggest you start thinking very carefully about your next words.
because they're about to determine whether you have careers tomorrow. Freeze frame on the ringing phone in Torres's shaking hand. Text overlay. The phone call that ended 4 careers. Split screen. Zara's calm confidence and the officer's growing panic. Final text. What Senator Thompson said will shock you. Melody's final live stream comment count. 22,847 viewers. 15,000 comments shared 8,900 times. Comments question. What do you think Senator Thompson said when she called? Drop your predictions below. Poll. Should these officers be fired or given a chance to learn? Pin comment. Y'all are not ready for part 2. When Senator Thompson shows up at that airport, let's just say careers ended, and policies changed forever. Dropping tomorrow. Subscribe CTA. Smash that subscribe button if you want to see how this ends. Part 2 is going to be insane, and you don't want to miss what happens when a sitting US Senator confronts airport security on live TV.
When we left off, 16-year-old Zara Thompson had just revealed she was the daughter of Senator Patricia Thompson. 4 TSA officers were about to receive the phone call that would end their careers. But what happened next didn't just destroy jobs, it changed federal policy forever. Torres's hand trembled as he answered the phone. The caller ID still displayed U.S. Senate Armed Services. Around him, Terminal C had fallen into an eerie silence, broken only by the clicking of phone cameras and Melody's live stream commentary. "This is Supervisor Torres," he said, his voice cracking. The voice that responded was crisp, professional, and absolutely terrifying in its controlled fury. "Mr. Torres, this is Senator Patricia Thompson. I've been watching the live stream of your officer's treatment of my daughter for the past 32 minutes. Are you aware that 23,000 people are currently witnessing this conversation?" Torres looked around wildly. Melody held her phone higher, making sure the audio was clear. Other passengers had formed a semicircle, their own devices recording every word. "Senator Thompson, there seems to have been a misunderstanding. Mr. Torres," the senator's voice cut through his stammering like ice, "let me be very clear. There has been no misunderstanding. I have watched your officers conduct an invasive search of my minor daughter without probable cause. I have heard Officer Walsh suggest that my daughter is a housekeeper's child living a fantasy. I have witnessed Agent Rodriguez imply that my daughter's academic achievements are fraudulent. This is not a misunderstanding. This is discrimination, and it's being documented by thousands of witnesses." Walsh stepped forward, her face pale but her voice still carrying a note of defiance. "Senator, we were following standard TSA protocols. Officer Walsh, did you just interrupt a United States Senator while she was speaking to your supervisor?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Walsh's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. "Senator Thompson, this is Officer Walsh. I apologize for interrupting. We were conducting a routine security screening. Officer Walsh, I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say. I sit on the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. That committee oversees TSA operations, budgets, and personnel policies. I have the transcripts of your conversation with my daughter. You suggested that she was living some fantasy and asked if her mother was probably a housekeeper or something. Do you stand by those statements?" Walsh's legs gave out completely. She had to grab Torres's arm to keep from falling. We see a lot of suspicious activity. Officer Walsh, My daughter is an honor student with a perfect GPA who has been accepted to 7 Ivy League universities. She was traveling alone to visit Columbia University for their admitted students program. She was wearing a university sweatshirt and carrying acceptance letters. What exactly about that scenario seemed suspicious to you? The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Officer Walsh, I'm waiting for your answer. 24,000 people are waiting for your answer. Senator, Walsh's voice cracked completely. I made assumptions. I was wrong. Melody's live stream chat exploded. She admitted it. The senator is destroying them. This is better than any TV show. Recording everything for history. Mr. Torres, I want you to put this call on speaker so that all your officers can hear what I'm about to say. Torres's hands shook as he activated the speakerphone function. Officers Brennan, Rodriguez, Walsh and Supervisor Torres, this is Senator Patricia Thompson speaking. I need each of you to understand the gravity of what has occurred here today. My daughter was subjected to discriminatory treatment based solely on her race and age. This treatment was captured on multiple video devices and broadcast live to tens of thousands of viewers. Rodriguez found her voice. Senator Thompson, we had no way of knowing. Agent Rodriguez, you had no way of knowing what? That my daughter was my daughter, or that black teenagers can be academically gifted, because one of those assumptions is understandable and the other is actionable discrimination under federal civil rights law. The distinction hit like a sledgehammer. Rodriguez realized she'd just walked into a legal trap set by someone who understood constitutional law better than she understood basic human decency. Furthermore, Senator Thompson continued, I have reviewed the security footage from the past hour. In that time, 47 passengers passed through your checkpoint. 46 were processed normally. One was subjected to extensive additional screening. That one passenger was my 16-year-old black daughter. Can you explain that statistical anomaly? Torres wiped sweat from his forehead. Senator, random screenings are random, Mr. Torres. I have a doctorate in statistical analysis from MIT. The probability of truly random selection producing that result is approximately 0.02%. Would you like to explain to a Senate committee how you achieved such statistically impossible randomness? The mathematics of discrimination had never been laid out so clearly. Torres felt his career evaporating in real time. Brennan stepped forward, his voice desperate. Senator Thompson, we were just doing our jobs. We didn't mean any disrespect. Agent Brennan, let me read you something. These are your exact words to my daughter. Girls her age, dressed like that, they don't usually have Ivy League acceptance letters. Something doesn't add up. Can you explain what you meant by girls her age, dressed like that? Brennan's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. I'm waiting, Agent Brennan. 25,000 people are waiting. I meant teenagers sometimes. Agent Brennan, my daughter is wearing a Columbia University sweatshirt and jeans. She was carrying academic textbooks and university acceptance letters. What specifically about her attire or age suggested criminal activity to you? The question was surgical in its precision. There was no good answer because the real answer, her race, couldn't be spoken aloud without admitting to federal civil rights violations. Officers, I want you to turn around and look toward the main terminal entrance. 4 heads turned in unison toward the security checkpoint entrance. Through the glass doors, A small convoy of black SUVs was pulling up to the curb. Men and women in dark suits were emerging, their movements crisp and purposeful. "Senator Thompson," Torres whispered, "are those federal agents, Mr. Torres?" Along with representatives from the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, the ACLU, and the Congressional Black Caucus. "Oh, and me." Through the crowd of passengers, a figure in a navy blue power suit was walking toward them, with the measured pace of someone accustomed to commanding rooms full of powerful people. Senator Patricia Thompson was in her early 50s, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a professional chignon, and eyes that seemed to catalog every detail for future reference. Behind her walked a small army of officials, DOJ attorneys, congressional staffers, airport executives who looked like they were attending their own funerals, and media representatives who had somehow gained access to what was now a federal incident. Melody's live stream viewer count hit 30,000. Major news outlets were now carrying her feed live. Zara Thompson was trending globally. "Zara," Senator Thompson called out as she approached, her voice carrying the warmth that had been absent from her phone conversation with the officers. "Mom," Zara replied, and for the first time in 35 minutes, she looked like a teenager instead of a civil rights activist. She ran to her mother, who enveloped her in a fierce hug. The visual was powerful, a United States senator comforting her daughter in an airport security area, while 4 TSA officers stood frozen like deer in headlights, surrounded by federal agents and thousands of witnesses. "Are you hurt?" Senator Thompson asked, her hands checking Zara's arms and shoulders with the instinctive protectiveness of a mother. "I'm okay, Mom. But they said things about you, about us, about what people like me deserve." Senator Thompson's jaw tightened. She turned to face the 4 officers, and when she spoke her voice carried the full weight of federal authority. "Officers, I'd like to introduce myself properly. I'm Senator Patricia Thompson, ranking member of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, member of the Armed Services Committee, and as of 15 minutes ago, chair of the newly formed Senate Subcommittee on Transportation Security Discrimination." The title was clearly brand new, created specifically for this moment. "I'm also the mother of the young woman you just spent 35 minutes humiliating on live television." DOJ attorney Sarah Chen stepped forward, her briefcase already open and documents at the ready. "Officers, I'm Sarah Chen from the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. Under federal law, I'm required to inform you that you are now subjects in a preliminary civil rights investigation. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to legal representation, and anything you say can and will be used in potential federal prosecution." Federal prosecution. The words hit like physical blows. "Mum," Torres stammered, "we were just following protocols." "Mr. Torres," Attorney Chen interrupted, "I have the complete audio and video record of this incident. You were not following protocols. You were engaging in discriminatory practices that violate the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, and federal transportation security regulations." She pulled out a tablet and began reading directly from the legal code. Under 42 U.S.C. 1983, any person who under color of state authority subjects any person to the deprivation of rights secured by the Constitution shall be liable to the party injured.
The Supreme Court has consistently held that selective enforcement based on racial characteristics constitutes a violation of equal protection. Walsh found her voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. "Are we being arrested?" "Not yet," Attorney Chen replied. "But I want you to understand that this incident has already triggered multiple federal investigations. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, the Department of Homeland Security Inspector General, the Congressional Government Accountability Office, and the ACLU are all opening formal inquiries." Senator Thompson stepped forward. "Officers, I want you to understand something. This isn't just about my daughter anymore. This is about every black teenager, every Muslim family, every person who doesn't fit your narrow definition of who belongs in first-class sections or Ivy League schools." She gestured toward Melody, who was still live streaming to over 35,000 viewers. This young woman's live stream has been viewed by hundreds of thousands of people in the past hour. It's been shared by congresswomen, civil rights leaders, and university presidents. My daughter's story is becoming everyone's story. ACLU Attorney David Rodriguez joined the conversation. Senator Thompson is correct. We've already received over 200 similar complaints just since this live stream began. People are sharing their own stories of TSA discrimination, racial profiling, and civil rights violations. He pulled out his own tablet, scrolling through reports. A black businessman strip-searched in Atlanta because his watch was too expensive. A Latina professor detained for 2 hours in Miami because her university ID was deemed suspicious. A Muslim family separated and interrogated in Chicago because they were acting nervous. The pattern was undeniable and damning.
Airport Executive Director Michael Harrison arrived, flanked by TSA Regional Administrator Lisa Park and a small army of lawyers. Harrison looked like a man walking to his execution. "Senator Thompson," Harrison began, "on behalf of Rosewood International Airport and the Transportation Security Administration, I want to express our deepest apologies for this incident." "Mr. Harrison," Senator Thompson replied coldly, "your apologies are noted but insufficient. What I want is accountability." Regional Administrator Park stepped forward. "Senator, we take all discrimination complaints seriously. These officers will face immediate administrative review." Administrator Park, "These officers will face immediate termination. Today, right now. In front of these witnesses." The bluntness of the demand shocked everyone except Zara, who had inherited her mother's directness. "Senator, we have procedures for employee discipline." Administrator Park, "I'm going to stop you right there. In approximately 2 hours, I will be on the floor of the United States Senate introducing the Transportation Security Accountability Act. This legislation will mandate body cameras for all TSA agents, create an independent oversight board for discrimination complaints, and establish personal liability for civil rights violations." She paused, letting the implications sink in. "The question is not whether there will be consequences for this incident. The question is whether TSA wants to be seen as taking immediate decisive action or fighting accountability at every step." Harrison and Park exchanged glances. They both understood political reality better than they understood civil rights law. Officers Brennan, Rodriguez, Walsh, and Supervisor Torres, Administrator Park announced, You are hereby suspended without pay pending the outcome of federal investigations. Your badges and credentials are to be surrendered immediately." The words fell like an executioner's axe. 34 years of combined federal service ended in a sentence. Rodriguez began crying. "I have a family. I have a mortgage. This job is all I know." Senator Thompson's expression softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. "Agent Rodriguez, my daughter also has a family. She has dreams and aspirations and a bright future ahead of her. 35 minutes ago, you tried to destroy that future based on assumptions about her race and social class. Actions have consequences." She turned to address all 4 officers directly. "However, I believe in redemption. I believe people can learn and grow and become better than they were. If you are willing to take full responsibility for your actions, if you are willing to become advocates for civil rights training and anti-discrimination policies, there may be a path forward for you." The offer was unexpected and powerful. "What kind of path?" Torres asked quietly. "Community service, civil rights education, traveling to schools and airports and training facilities to tell your story, showing people exactly how unconscious bias becomes discriminatory action, becoming living examples of how good people can do terrible things when they don't examine their assumptions." She looked directly at Walsh. "Officer Walsh, you suggested that my daughter was living a fantasy and that I was probably a housekeeper. Would you be willing to spend the next year explaining to audiences how those assumptions reflected your own biases rather than any reality about my family?" Walsh nodded mutely, tears streaming down her face. "Agent Rodriguez, you questioned whether my daughter deserved her academic achievements. Would you be willing to visit schools and universities to talk about the harm caused by academic stereotypes based on race?" Rodriguez whispered, "Yes, ma'am." Attorney Chen pulled out a legal document. "Senator Thompson has worked with the DOJ to create a restorative justice program specifically for this type of civil rights violation. Instead of federal prosecution, the officers can enter into a consent decree requiring community service, civil rights training, and public accountability. The alternative to federal prison was compelling." Officers, Senator Thompson continued, "This incident has already sparked a national conversation about racial profiling and transportation security. You can either be remembered as cautionary tales or as people who used their mistakes to educate others and prevent future discrimination." Brennan stepped forward. "Senator Thompson, I want you to know that I have a mixed-race granddaughter. She's 14 years old. If someone treated her the way I treated Zara, I would want to destroy them. I'm ashamed of myself. I'm ashamed of what I did to your daughter." The confession was raw and genuine. "If you're willing to give me a chance to make this right, I'll spend however long it takes traveling around the country, making sure this never happens to another child." Senator Thompson studied him for a long moment. "Agent Brennan, accountability without the possibility of redemption is just revenge. If you're genuinely committed to change, then we can work together to make sure my daughter's experience becomes a learning opportunity rather than just a traumatic memory." Melody's live stream had reached 40,000 viewers. The comments section was a mix of celebration, demands for justice, and calls for systemic change. "This is how you handle discrimination. Senator Thompson for president. These officers better keep their promises. Zara is going to change the world. This is what accountability looks like." Senator Thompson pulled out her own tablet and began outlining immediate policy changes. Administrator Park, effective immediately, TSA will implement the following reforms. First, mandatory body cameras for all agents conducting additional screenings. Second, racial bias training for all personnel, developed in consultation with civil rights organizations. Third, an independent review board for discrimination complaints. Fourth, public reporting of screening statistics by demographic categories. The reforms were comprehensive and immediate. Senator Park began. Implementing these changes will require significant budget. Administrator Park, I control TSA's budget allocation through the Homeland Security Committee. These changes will be implemented, or TSA will find its funding significantly reduced in the next appropriation cycle. The threat was polite but unmistakable. Airport Executive Harrison stepped forward. Senator Thompson, Rosewood International commits to becoming a pilot program for these reforms. We'll implement body cameras, bias training and oversight procedures within 90 days. Excellent. And Mr. Harrison, I want my daughter to be involved in developing the training materials. Who better to explain the impact of discrimination than someone who experienced it firsthand? Zara stepped forward, her voice carrying new confidence. I want other kids to know that their achievements are valid regardless of what anyone assumes about them. I want TSA agents to understand that when they look at a black teenager, they might be looking at a future doctor, lawyer, scientist or senator. She paused, looking directly at the officers who had humiliated her. But I also want them to know that every person deserves dignity and respect, whether they're going to Columbia University or just trying to visit their grandmother. Civil rights aren't earned through achievement, they're guaranteed by the Constitution. The statement was profound and mature beyond her 16 years. DOJ Attorney Chen began documenting agreements. We'll need formal consent decrees from all parties, implementation timelines for policy changes, and regular progress reports to federal oversight. As news of the incident spread, Terminal C became a media circus. Local news crews had gained access to the secure area, and national networks were sending correspondents. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News and major networks all wanted interviews. Senator Thompson fielded questions with practiced political skill. Senator Thompson, do you believe this incident reflects broader problems with TSA? Asked CNN correspondent Jessica Walsh. I believe this incident reflects broader problems with unconscious bias in all institutions. When authority figures make assumptions based on race, age or appearance, civil rights are violated and human dignity is damaged. What message do you want to send to other families who've experienced similar discrimination? Asked MSNBC. Document everything, share your stories, demand accountability. My daughter's incident was captured on live stream and witnessed by thousands of people, which made denial impossible. But every incident matters, whether it's witnessed by thousands or just by you. Fox News pressed on potential overreach. Senator, some critics might argue that you're using your political position to get special treatment for your family. Senator Thompson's response was swift and decisive. My political position didn't protect my daughter from being humiliated and searched like a criminal. My political position gives me the power to make sure this doesn't happen to other people's daughters who don't have senators for mothers. That's exactly what political power should be used for.
The answer was perfect and politically savvy. Dr. Michael Thompson, Zara's father and chief of pediatric surgery at Georgetown University Hospital, arrived with their younger son Marcus, who was 14, and had been following the live stream from school. "Dad," Zara ran to her father, who lifted her off the ground in a bear hug. "I'm so proud of you," he whispered. "You handled this with more grace and dignity than most adults could manage."
Marcus looked around at the chaos of federal agents, media crews, and airport officials. "Zara, you broke the internet. Everyone at school was watching the live stream. You're trending on every platform." Indeed, Zara Thompson had become a global phenomenon. Universities were offering additional scholarships. Civil rights organizations were requesting speaking engagements. Publishing companies were inquiring about book deals. But Senator Thompson was focused on systemic change rather than personal fame. The Thompson Transportation Security Act will be introduced in the Senate next week, she announced to the gathered media. It will mandate federal standards for bias training, require demographic reporting of security screenings, and create personal liability for civil rights violations by federal agents. The legislation was comprehensive and had immediate bipartisan support from senators who had seen their own children in Zara's situation. Additionally, she continued, "My family will be establishing the Dignity in Transit Foundation, which will provide legal support for families facing discrimination in transportation settings and fund civil rights training programs for federal agencies." The foundation would ensure that Zara's experience created lasting institutional change. As the media chaos subsided and federal agents completed their initial interviews, the Thompson family found themselves in a quiet corner of the terminal with the 4 suspended TSA officers. "Officers," Senator Thompson said, "before you leave here today, I want you to meet my daughter properly." Zara stepped forward, extending her hand to each officer in turn. "Agent Brennan, I accept your apology. I hope your granddaughter never experiences what I experienced today." "Agent Rodriguez, I understand that you were doing what you thought was your job. I hope you'll help me make sure future agents understand their job differently." "Officer Walsh, your words hurt me deeply, but I believe you can do better. I hope you'll prove that belief correct." "Supervisor Torres, you have an opportunity to show real leadership by taking responsibility and helping create change." Each handshake was a moment of human connection that transcended the institutional failures that had brought them together. Rodriguez was crying openly now. "Zara, I'm so sorry. You're an amazing young woman, and I was completely wrong about everything." "Agent Rodriguez," Zara replied, "use that feeling to make sure you never make those assumptions again, and help other people recognize their assumptions before they hurt someone." As the Thompson family prepared to leave the airport, Zara's flight had been rescheduled for the next day, with first-class accommodation and a personal apology from the airline CEO. Senator Thompson addressed Melody's still-running live stream directly. "To the 42,000 people watching this live, and to the millions who will see this story in the coming days, change happens when ordinary people do extraordinary things. Melody Chen did an extraordinary thing by documenting this incident and sharing it with the world." She gestured to Melody, who had become an accidental civil rights hero. "But every one of you can do extraordinary things. When you see discrimination, document it. When you witness injustice, speak up. When you have the power to create change, use it. Zara stepped forward to address the camera directly. My name is Zara Thompson. I'm 16 years old. I'm black. I'm brilliant. And I belong anywhere I choose to be. Every young person watching this needs to know your dreams are valid, your achievements are earned, and your dignity is non-negotiable. She paused, looking directly into the camera with the confidence of someone who had just changed history. Don't let anyone make you smaller than you are. And when you get to positions of power, and you will remember how it felt to be underestimated, use that memory to lift other people up. The live stream ended with 45,000 viewers, 2.8 million total views across platforms, and a global conversation about civil rights, unconscious bias, and the power of ordinary people to create extraordinary change. Title card. 6 months later, the Thompson Transportation Security Act passed the Senate unanimously and the House with bipartisan support. TSA discrimination complaints dropped by 73% in the first quarter after implementation. Officers Brennan, Rodriguez, Walsh, and Torres completed their community service requirements and became traveling civil rights educators. Their presentations at airports and schools reached over 100,000 people in their first year. Melody Chen left her law practice to become a full-time civil rights documentarian. Her Dignity Watch project had documented and helped resolve over 300 discrimination incidents across the country. Zara Thompson enrolled at Columbia University with a full scholarship and a major in constitutional law. She spent her freshman summer as an intern in the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. The Dignity in Transit Foundation provided legal support for 127 families facing transportation discrimination and funded bias training programs that became the federal standard. Senator Patricia Thompson was elected Senate Majority Leader on a platform of civil rights enforcement and government accountability, and Rosewood International Airport became the safest, most inclusive airport in America for travelers of all backgrounds. Final message on screen: real stories matter. Real people create real change. What injustice will you document today? Fade to black. Final live stream statistics. Peak viewers, 45,000 total platform views, 2.8 million in first 24 hours, shares 890,000 comments, 124,000 comments. Questions: what discrimination have you witnessed or experienced? Share your story below. How has this story changed how you think about speaking up? What would you have done in Zara's situation? Subscribe CTA. Subscribe if you believe everyone deserves dignity and respect. Hit the bell if you want to see more stories about ordinary people creating extraordinary change. Final pinned comment: this story proves that one person's courage can change the world. Zara Thompson didn't just stand up for herself, she stood up for everyone who's ever been underestimated. What will your stand be?